So when I was just first going to primary school in Scotland, we went to like it wasn't, well, it was religious in a way, but it was old Scots sort of based, in a place called Knightsbridge. It's got this symbolism around there, and a hall and things like that. Cool stonework, old trees. The point being of this message is that my first day in primary 1, I remember not wanting to leave my parent, my mum at the time. My dad was at work, and the first classroom I went into was right in there, and that was where I met my teacher, and her name was Mrs. Lennox. She was 80 years old. I found out. I'll tell you why, because as soon as she got to meet us all, we were all sat on a carpet in front of her desk in the classroom, and she leaned against it like this and peered down through her glasses, and the classroom was a rectangle, quite with a horseshoe tables, and we were in front of our tables, in front of her desk, in this little segment. And on the wall behind us was a number line that went from 0 all the way up to, I think it was 20. And I didn't go the length of the wall, but it was in the middle. And she's asking the class a bunch of questions, and she asks, does anyone have any questions for me? And I ask her, I put my hand up and I go, how old are you? Because I'd never seen someone so old. And she told me it's rude to ask a lady her age. And I was like, oh, I always asked people how old they were. It's just something that you done when you were younger. How old are you? How old are you? So you try to put things into context for yourself, perspective, and not that it meant anything. It was just, yeah. Other kids used to ask me how old I was all the time, and so did adults, so I'm just mirroring blah blah blah. So I never understood what this rudeness was, so I was a bit like, oh, like I'd crossed the boundary of this stranger who was an authority figure already. Anyway, so I'm just like, oh, okay. I think I went a bit red or something like that. I'm not sure if I said anything. Anyway. And the teacher points to the number line and asks the class, who knows what this is? Put your hand up. And so everyone puts their hand up. Who does and doesn't? I put my hand up. And she says, any questions? And I keep my hand up still. And I ask my question. I says, why does your number line stop at 0? Where are the negative numbers? And she says, there's nothing before. What do you mean? She says, she pulled a gaslight. She says, what do you mean there's nothing before 0? And I says, no, we have one at home that goes backwards. It goes that way, and the 0's in the middle. And I says, I've seen them when you do this, and you take the -10 and the 10 as a kid, and you match up the ones, so you make a loop with a belt. I used to have like a mini plastic tape measure, and if you overlap them, you can join the ones up over each other, so it's like this a little bit, and the 2 nails would be the ones, and you've got a 0 on each side and a 1 in the middle, so you make a loop where figuratively there's a 0, a normal 0 here, and over here you've got an overlapping 1 with 2 zeros on the side. And so me being 5 years old, I knew this, and she says there's nothing over there, and some of the kids were looking at me kind of like, what the fuck? And I didn't get a good look at everyone, but it was a little bit like, I stopped opening my mouth a little bit straight away. In school, I didn't want to be there right away. I was like, this place is fucking dumb. It didn't sit with me, because I used to sit and watch the science channels and things like that. My favourite things was planets, things spinning, and my mum always raised me to be crafty with arts. So, but me and my sisters and my brother, we used to build things out of boxes, and always making towers and 3D objects out of weighted things, and paper, folding it like balls and chips. I think the birds are at stuff outside. And before school, I was making little bowls out of folded paper and little objects, sometimes with staples and sometimes without. And the goal was always for me was to try and make it without. So it wasn't quite origami, but it was more like sheets, and you could fold corners over. So I didn't care about making a perfect square into a perfect thing with the perfect angles. It was more about crushing it and sometimes folding it elegantly around and in itself, just to trap the tension. And you would end up with these weird points, and I would flatten them out with my thumbs, and eventually you would have like a fake dinner, like a pie with a top and with crust around it, and on the inside you'd have little balls of peas, and you just make what you ate for dinner. And I was giving it back to my mum, so she was like, right, make dinner for me, and we'd cut out all the bits or fold what we needed, and scribble the colours on it and twist them up and things like that for curly chips and Twizzlers, and try and get it to keep its weirdness. And they go soggy just like chips as well when they get wet. My mum would pretend to eat it like nom 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 nom. So we had a lot of this weird manipulation of 2D planes and imagination of like objects when we were young. There was lots of sound as well to do with like instruments and hot and cold things. My mum used to like sort of let us experience stuff. She'd be like, right, feel this and feel that, and put it on your head and feel it there, and like it was about being aware of your senses. So school, if you've not got anything in your head already, they'll put something in there, like a formal structure, like an interval will be your first prior structure, and you'll have to learn an a priori thing later on, rework your head, and I don't like that. In high school they would tell you that they were unteaching what you've learned, and they do that through uni, but it would be much easier if there was a fundamental thing that made sense, like a loop with the tens. So you've still got your zeros on, but they represent compressed and expanded ring, because every kid has a ring pops and things like and it's even like a dummy, you know, that shape. It's fundamental to like cone structures and things like that, internal spaces, suction. It's even got like a diaphragm around it, like a ring that it's attached to, that the whole thing's kind of like interesting in itself. But these are analogies you can teach kids or show kids and draw numbers around. Yeah, okay, so this went on longer than I thought. So if you watch this, thanks.